AEW Dynamite viewership hits a 3-year low in the key demographic for the post-Forbidden Door show. CM Punk's status for AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium is seemingly confirmed. We have an injury update on Bryan Danielson as well as his involvement in AEW Creative. Kenny Omega is set to face off against Wheeler Yuta next week on AEW Dynamite, and Santana is reportedly very upset with All Elite Wrestling Creative. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Let's start off talking about the ratings for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, the post-Forbidden Door show. A show that certainly was coming off the back of a very successful and popular Forbidden Door, but this week's Dynamite did not fare very well at all when it comes to the ratings. Now, for the last episode of AEW Dynamite, with the slate wiped clean from competition from its biggest competitors, and it being the last show before Forbidden Door, the Nielsen ratings were up, with viewership up and the momentum of a well-received show on Sunday. How did the post-Forbidden Door episode of Dynamite do? Well, not so great. According to Showbuzz Daily and WrestleNomics, both on their Twitter and Patreon pages, the June 28 Dynamite averaged 809,000 viewers across its 122 minutes, which is down 10% from last week. Approximately 316,000 of which were in the key demographic, most valued by advertisers, adults aged 18 to 49, down 28% from the week prior. The latter figure translates to a 0.24 rating in the 18 to 49 demo, which, despite the sharp drop, was still good enough for third place in Showbuzz Daily's rankings of the day's cable originals, but it was the lowest number in the key demographic since the June 24, 2020 show headlined by Matt Hardy vs. Santana. WrestleNomics has also reported the quarter-hour ratings for Wednesday's show. Compared to last week as well as the trend line, it looks like the big difference was a particularly fast and steep drop-off from where the show started, as this week started with actually slightly more viewers. Specific to the key demo, it normally holds steadier throughout the show than total viewers, which usually drop off throughout, but this week there was more of a continuous drop-off than usual starting in the third quarter. For a more extensive picture, the WrestleNomics Patreon page tracks how Dynamite did in various demographics in relation to the median of the prior full week's numbers. By that metric, the numbers are about what you'd expect given the drop in the key demographic, with both female viewers aged 12 to 34 and women aged 18 to 34 dropping by 34%, the worst percentage decrease from the median. So what are your thoughts about the number this week? Given the fact it's still around 800,000, which is pretty much average for Dynamite at this point, was it an average week? Or, considering the key demographic is down and it's the worst number since nearly 3 years ago, is this cause for concern for All Elite Wrestling? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Now let's talk about CM Punk and his status for some of the biggest shows this year for All Elite Wrestling. And the status for CM Punk for AEW All In London at Wembley Stadium on August 27 has now seemingly been revealed. With Punk's status in AEW being uncertain for so long, he wasn't included in any promotional material for many shows, including All In. However, that has now changed. As can be seen on the screen, a full-page ad for All In the UK-based Metro newspaper has Punk featured front and center, which all but confirms he is planned to be on the show. As of this recording, Punk is still not included in the All-In promotional posters that are on the AEW website. Also on the ad are FTR, Chris Statlander, Samoa Joe, and Pac. Pac, of course, has been absent from AEW for months, but his name was actually included in the press releases for All In, with him, of course, being from England, so that would make sense. But CM Punk seemingly is indeed advertised for the show, so expect to see the former two-time AEW World Champion at Wembley Stadium at the end of August. Now, while CM Punk may not have a match on this week's episode of Collision, the AEW president, Tony Khan, has confirmed that the Second City Saint will fulfill a non-wrestling role on the show. As revealed on Twitter, Punk will be at the commentary desk as he calls a first-round match in the men's Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament. That bout will pit Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe against Roderick Strong, with the winner going on to face Punk in the semi-finals on the July 8 episode of Collision. Punk previously defeated Satoshi Kojima at Forbidden Door in the opening contest of the tournament. This week's Collision is pre-recorded. It was pre-recorded on Thursday at the First Ontario Centre in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The episode will air in its usual time slot on TNT Saturday evening. In addition to Joe versus Strong, Collision will showcase the other first two-round matches in the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Those contests will see Dustin Rhodes battle Powerhouse Hobbs, while Ricky Starks collides with Juice Robinson. Since Since returning to AEW on June 17, Punk has wrestled on 3 occasions, including the aforementioned bout against Kojima at Forbidden Door. On Collision's debut episode, Punk and FTR emerged victorious in a trios match against Juice Robinson, Samoa Joe, and Jay White. The former AEW champion partnered up with FTR and Absolute Ricky Starks the week following, but fell on the losing side on that occasion as they suffered a defeat at the hands of Bullet Club Gold and The Guns. Now, what about the reactions he's been getting as well? Well, it's certainly very interesting, isn't it? Because Tony Khan has commented on some of the reactions that CM Punk has been receiving since his return to All Elite Wrestling. Now, Khan said in an appearance on Busted Open Radio, quote, "I wasn't surprised about all that given that we were in Canada and given some of the things that had happened in the lead up to the show, and in particular since the last time he wrestled. So I think as we go on the road, we are going to get a lot of great responses, but just like a sports team, it depends on where you're at. Some sports teams are really popular in home cities, and then when they go on the road, it depends. And definitely I thought this was a road game for him. He did great." Punk himself certainly hasn't shied away from playing the bad guy during his matches where appropriate, particularly last weekend at Forbidden Door with his victory against the aforementioned Satoshi Kojima. While it's unclear whether it will be positive or negative, CM Punk is undoubtedly set to receive a rapturous response when AEW makes its overseas debut at All In at Wembley Stadium on August 27. The question I have to you is he going to get cheered or booed here in the UK? Now let's talk about Bryan Danielson. Now earlier this month, Wrestling Observer Radio shared that Bryan Danielson's creative influence within AEW was a strong one. The latest report from Fightful Select regarding the American Dragon confirms pretty much as much, but they've received and revealed more details surrounding Danielson. And in terms of Danielson's in-ring future, plenty has been altered following the fractured arm he suffered during his match against Kazuchika Okada at Forbidden Door. Fightful notes that lately Danielson has been spending his time in creative helping out the first few weeks of AEW Collision, and that in that time he's been praised for his efforts. His presence backstage, particularly when speaking to talent about the company's expectations for them, has been seen as very valuable. Unfortunately, the fact is that he suffered a broken arm. One thing we know is that it's now worse than initially thought, and it has temporarily halted his own personal creative direction. Following Forbidden Door, original plans had Danielson wrestling on television more often. Additionally, he was set to take part in Blood and Guts on July 19 after Jon Moxley laid down the challenge between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite on AEW Dynamite this week. Originally, AEW and Danielson were looking at a timeline of 6 to 8 weeks until his potential return, which would have put them right up against the window to be ready for All In on August 27. However, with the news that the fracture is worse than previously thought, it's difficult to see him being ready for AEW's massive event at Wembley Stadium this summer, but again, you never know, so we'll have to wait and see, of course, if he does make it. Speaking of Danielson, one of the highlights of last weekend's Forbidden Door show was the Dream Match main event between himself and Kazuchika Okada. The match was well received before the bell even rang, of course, as Bryan Danielson made his entrance to the Europe song Final Countdown, his original theme from Ring of Honor, which had been a long-time request for fans of AEW. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Tony Khan detailed the negotiations behind getting the song and how he really wanted to use it as part of Forbidden Door. He said, quote, "We were negotiating for years trying to get the deal done, and this is the best rate I've ever got recently, and it was something I felt would add to the presentation of Forbidden Door and Bryan Okada. It's one of those special matches, and anything I could do to add to the presentation and make the night more special, I really wanted to do so." That's what led to the Final Countdown at Forbidden Door this past weekend as part of the great event. So it was previously reported, of course, that it cost basically an arm and a leg to get that deal done. So whether we're going to be hearing it more in AEW moving forward, that's unlikely. But certainly, given the fact that now the rights have actually been purchased by another entity, maybe they can get it on a cheaper rate. Now let's talk about Dynamite next week, because Kenny Omega is going to be in singles competition while tensions continue to brew between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. A singles match will now pit one member of each faction against the other. As announced by AEW President Tony Khan on Thursday night, Kenny Omega will face the Blackpool Combat Club's Wheeler Yuta on the July 5th episode of Dynamite, which will emanate from the Rogers Place Arena in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. After an all-time classic match at Forbidden Door, Kenny Omega returns to the ring to fight the man who pinned him in Anarchy in the Arena, the Blackpool Combat Club's Wheeler Yuta, Khan tweeted. As Khan alluded to, next Wednesday will be Omega's first match since losing the IWGP United States Championship to Will Ospreay at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view last weekend. Following his defeat, Omega was notably absent from this week's episode of Dynamite, which featured an intense brawl between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. Following a victory over Dark Order's Alex Reynolds, Evil Uno, and John Silver, the Young Bucks and Hangman Adam Page were ambushed by the BCC, along with Konosuke Takeshita. Eddie Kingston attempted to even the odds for the Elite, but was quickly taken down as well. After neutralizing their rivals, Moxley declared that the two sides will end their feud in a blood and guts match on Dynamite on July 19. While AEW fans eagerly wait for that bout to unfold, Omega and Yuta will battle one-on-one next week, marking their first singles match against one another. Again, it's certainly going to be very interesting to see the outcome of that. Finally, a name we haven't heard and seen of in quite some time, Santana, is reportedly very upset with AEW. A currently absent AEW star was reportedly quite pissed off with his creative, possibly casting further doubts on his future with the company. Santana, who has been out of action in AEW for a year with an ACL injury, last competed on the June 29, 2022 Dynamite in a blood and guts match. Somewhere around that time, former tag team partners Santana and Ortiz had a falling out despite still having to work alongside each other. Santana is reportedly going to be ready to return soon, but Ortiz has also been off AEW TV since March for reasons unknown. Amidst the uncertainty, a new update has emerged courtesy of this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, in which Dave Meltzer documented the recent comments made by a source close to Santana and Ortiz, that being AAA Talent Relations head Conan. Conan addressed Santana's situation both with his former tag team partner Ortiz, as well as his frustrations within AEW on Inside the Ropes Radio. Meltzer writes, quote, "In an AEW-related story, Conan also spoke about wanting Santana and Ortiz to get back together. Quote, I don't know because for a while here, Ortiz and Santana haven't been seeing eye to eye. I've been talking to both of them to see if they will reunite. I think the problem was that LAX originally, the first time I ever talked to Tony, he talked to me about LAX. And then the next thing I knew, when I inquired about it, he wanted me to come in and manage it. And then when I inquired about it, or it might have been Cody, but then when I inquired about it, Tony was like, oh, Jericho's going to use them. And I was like, that's a weird fit, but F it. Then when I saw that, and I love Jericho, he's one of my best friends, but bro, he did nothing with them. I mean, absolutely nothing with them. And so these guys died a slow death, and Santana was pissed off, and he has every reason to be. The guy's effing uber talented, and you're not doing anything with him. So, apparently, he was very frustrated about that. Of course, if we get any updates on Santana's future, we'll let you know. But there you go, guys. It's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.